From tornadoes to serial killers, bee stings to car accidents, the US can be a treacherous place to live, but not all states are created equally. This video is made for educational purposes. We'll be looking at a number of criteria. Maybe it's death by wildlife, maybe it's death by Jeffrey Dahmer, or maybe it's just your run-of-the-mill natural causes. Or is it natural? Maybe it's cancer from a nearby nuclear plant. Nowhere is safe, but some states are safer than others. Here are the 9 most dangerous states to live in. Stay tuned to hear some of the safest states. For number 9, let's start with natural disasters. You may be thinking of California's wildfires, Kansas tornadoes, or Florida hurricanes, but the answer is Texas. Last year, there were approximately 770 deaths in the US related to natural weather phenomena, with the majority being from heat at nearly 400. But deaths aren't the only thing that makes it dangerous. There are long-term effects, damage, and destruction. Texas has it all. Tornadoes, extreme heat, and hurricanes smashing the Gulf Coast. Since 1953, Texas has recorded 368 major disasters, and those are just the major ones on record. Many of us remember Hurricane Harvey in 2017, which cost the state $125 billion in damages and took the lives of 103 Texans. A whopping 279 people died last year of heat stroke in Texas. In 2022, Texas saw 36 consecutive days with temperatures in the triple digits. Texas recorded 2 days in history, one as recently as 1994, where temperatures reached a staggering 120 degrees. Think you're safe by staying indoors and far from the coast? Think again. Texas gets about 160 tornadoes a year, so you better have an air-conditioned basement. The most deadly US natural disaster to date was the Great Storm of 1900, or the Galveston Hurricane of 1900. It is estimated that nearly 12,000 people died in this storm, so watch out, Texas. Number 8 is every true crime buff's favorite topic: serial killers. In which state are you most likely to be the victim of a serial killer? Believe it or not, it's Alaska. Relative to population, Alaska has 15.6 serial killer deaths per 1 million people. Alaska is the perfect breeding ground for serial killers. It is remote, isolated, and law enforcement has limited resources to respond in the vast wilderness. Hiding a body is easy when you have 570,641 square miles of body-hiding tundra. Alaska is twice the size of the next biggest state of Texas. One of the state's most notorious serial killers was Robert Hansen. The average Anchorage resident knew Hansen as a good father, loving husband, successful businessman, and an avid and skilled hunter. His neighbors eventually learned that he was a serial killer who had murdered nearly 20 young women over the course of more than a decade. He killed over 20 people, and to make matters worse, he had a private plane. He would stalk his victims in Anchorage, then fly them to remote corners of the state, leaving their bodies never to be found. Serial killers in Alaska go way back. An Inuit man named Klutuk had his reign of terror from 1919 to 1939, where he killed trappers in the remote area. His legend still lives on and continuously haunts the Alaskan wilderness. Number 7 is gun violence, and we're actually talking about Mississippi. While there is a lot more gun violence in Chicago, when it comes to the entire state, Mississippi takes the cake on this one. Mississippi averages 686 gun deaths a year, with 64 being kids aged 19 and under. They also see an average of 2,753 gun-related injuries each year. While 43% were those who died by self-harm, 52% were homicides, and the rest were accidental. This makes the Magnolia State the riskiest state to be in if you have hoplophobia, also known as a fear of guns. Most recently, in February of 2023, a 52-year-old Mississippi man went on a shooting rampage, killing 6 people in a small rural community. About 54.1% of Mississippians own guns, the 8th highest in the nation. So if you have hoplophobia or you just prefer not to die from a bullet wound, then be cautious in Mississippi. Number 6 is Pennsylvania. This state isn't prone to natural disasters or gun violence, but it has the dirtiest water in the nation. Take a step back, Flint, Michigan, because while you certainly had a good run at the top, as far as the whole state is concerned, Pennsylvania ranks number 1 in the nation for worst, most polluted tap water. Currently, 1/4 of all Americans get their water from a source that violates the Environmental Protection Agency's Safe Drinking Water Act. Violations range from a lack of adequate testing to dangerous levels of contaminants like arsenic or lead. Pennsylvania is known for its natural beauty, rolling hills, Poconos Mountains, grassy fields, and the environmental purity of the Amish communities. But the Keystone State cannot escape its past. Its economy had relied heavily on coal mining, but unregulated mining practices led to an abundance of pollution, producing black snow and rust-colored streams. Up to 20,000 miles of streams do not meet federal water quality standards for fishing and swimming. You'll be safe in Pennsylvania just as long as you don't drink the water or eat any of the fish caught in one of its streams. Number 5 is New Mexico, which ranks most dangerous when it comes to crime. All kinds of crime, not just serial killers, although they have their share of those too. The land of enchantment isn't so enchanting when it comes to crime. It is one of the most dangerous states in the US and has consistently ranked among the highest in the nation for states with the most violent crimes, with Albuquerque being one of the most dangerous cities. New Mexico sees over 12,000 incidents of violent assault and over 2,000 incidents of robbery each year. Property crime is also a major problem, with burglary and vehicle theft being all too common. Gallup and Farmington rank alongside Albuquerque as being the worst in the state. New Mexico also has a plethora of unsolved crimes, including the 1990 Las Cruces bowling alley massacre. 7 people, including 2 children, arrived at a bowling alley where gunmen were waiting. They locked them in a room, stole money from the safe, shot all 7 victims, and set the place on fire. Despite this, there were 3 survivors, although the case has never been solved. If that's not creepy enough for you, then look into the mass grave found in West Mesa. A woman walking her dog found what appeared to be a shallow grave. Authorities found the bodies of 11 women and 1 unborn baby. Dubbed the 118th Street Killer because of the street the bodies were near, left the community in shock. It is still unsolved. Over the past year, 650 people have been reported missing across New Mexico and in the Navajo Nation. Number 4 is West Virginia. West Virginia is the least healthy state in the nation and has the second lowest life expectancy of only 72.8 years old. That's 8 years shorter than Hawaiians, who have the highest life expectancy. Of its residents, 13.2% of adults are diagnosed with diabetes, and they have the highest rate of obesity. The state also ranks highest in mortality rates for cancer, diabetes, kidney disease, and heart disease. The state also has the highest rate of drug overdoses and the highest rate of adults who smoke. West Virginia also has some of the worst healthcare in the US and leads the nation in preventable deaths. To make matters worse, the state has the highest average private health insurance premiums in the country. Sadly, the mental health in the state is no better than its physical health, as the state ranks 50th in depression. There are plenty of reasons for this, including food deserts, rampant unemployment, and isolation. Food deserts are regions where residents have limited or no access to affordable, healthy foods. This typically occurs in low-income areas and places with smaller populations. So if you need your morning dose of avocado toast, an acai bowl, or a kale salad, you may have a hard time finding it in the mountain state. Number 3 is Illinois. This state will inspire crime sleuths from far and wide, as this state has the highest unsolved murder rate in the country at 64%. And while Chicago crime dominates the state's statistics, the state in general has a staggeringly high number of cold cases. The murder of 7-year-old Maria Riedolf back in 1957 is America's oldest cold case to ever be solved, or so they thought. A man was convicted of her murder in 2012, only for his conviction to be overturned, as it was proven he was not anywhere near where she was killed, putting that case back into the unsolved category. There are numerous unsolved cases involving unidentified bodies, including in 1993, when just the head of a woman was found. In addition to not knowing who these victims are, no one knows who killed them. One of Illinois' oldest and most creepy unsolved mysteries dates back to the 1940s, when a small town fell victim to someone who was emitting poisonous gases into people's homes. The mysterious perpetrator even made barricades to prevent the victims from escaping. People reported sore throats and nausea, and many people claimed they saw someone moving around outside their homes at the time. Many theories led to a local angry medical student, but no one ever determined who led this little hamlet into mass hysteria. Number 2 is North Dakota, which holds the title of most dangerous state to work. Of course, ice fishing in Alaska or working as a tandem skydiver in Florida may hold more inherent dangers, but in terms of per capita injuries and deaths, North Dakota wins. The 2 biggest industries are oil and agriculture. 10% of all workplace fatalities each year happen in North Dakota. Whether it's accidents using heavy machinery, heart failure from toxic fumes, explosions at oil and gas facilities, or transportation injuries, there is no doubt that North Dakota oil field workers face risks. Some of the most common injuries are broken bones and burns. Farming is no safer as workers also use dangerous machinery. Many apply for jobs with little to no experience or become too complacent when it comes to safety. Other times it's just a freak accident. Either way, the jobs are inherently dangerous. North Dakota also ranks first in non-fatal workplace injuries with 47% more than the next highest state. So if you are searching for employment, be wary of the Peace Garden state because it's not so peaceful out there. Before we get to number 1, let's take a look at some of the safest states. New Hampshire, Vermont, and Utah all rank well for safety and have low crime rates to prove it. They are also least susceptible to natural disasters. Hawaiians are some of the healthiest residents, and Kansans rank number 1 in safety when it comes to self-reporting. And now for number 1, California. You knew this one was coming. California doesn't necessarily get its own category because it ranks on top in most categories. They suffer dangerous earthquakes and wildfires, have the highest amount of homicides, child abductions, and though they are relatively healthy with a high life expectancy, their lungs have suffered greatly from the smoke produced by wildfires. Because of the recent rash of wildfires, studies are being conducted to see if there is a link to lung cancer. The verdict is still out. California boasts 3,500 homicides a year, and when it comes to serial killers, they challenge Alaska for that title. The most famous serial killers and mass murderers came from California, including the never-caught Zodiac Killer, Charles Manson, Richard Ramirez, also known as the Night Stalker, and Ed Kemper, who started killing at just 15 years old. The state also has a staggering amount of gang violence and robberies. Many blame the state policymakers for not prosecuting quality-of-life crimes and not charging individuals who steal goods valuing less than $950. Don't think you can avoid danger by getting a good alarm system in your house either. You can't escape the natural disasters. One of the biggest earthquakes occurred in 1994. The 6.7 magnitude earthquake caused 57 fatalities and over 8,700 injuries. The biggest was the San Francisco earthquake in 1906 that was an astounding 7.8 magnitude. Over 3,000 people died and 80% of the city was destroyed. It's only a matter of time before the big one breaks California off the coastline. Now that you're aware of the most dangerous states, stay on the channel and click this image to learn more about the rudest cities in America. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.